So it's difficult to follow Professor Junjunwala because I also have to always borrow his text. I actually happened in Kolkata where we spoke 6 months ago, where I just simply copied a slide and added some points. So that's what I'm going to do now, what he actually said. But I'm going to actually give you a different twist. So he mentioned about Tamil Nadu starting like we had totally maybe 3,000 students then in the whole state per year. This was in 1984. I remember because I finished school in 85. So, when you're a student, you pay attention to this, right? 3,000 students. All of India, I mentioned 20,000. So, and now Tamil Nadu alone may be 2 lakh students per year in engineering. So every district, every remote place has a college, and which is considered, we can consider it a revolution, right? But in fact, I asked this in Shastra University in Tanjavur. Tanjavur, we have a Shastra University, which is considered a major university now. It's one of the top 5 or top 10 universities in India. So last 35 years, nearly 40 years, we have created this university, but we have created zero industry, right? So, and in fact, I was just reading the statistic. The government's objective now is about 26% of India's youth attend college now. It's called the gross enrollment ratio, 26%. And in the next 10-15 years, they want to raise it to 50%. 50%. But I actually am, in fact, I'm going to be a strong disagreement on all this because ever more colleges are not going to, we still have not created, we are still importing most of our technology. Why do we produce 2 lakh students per year and still import most of our technology? It's actually worth asking these questions now because, and so in a way, our company is a kind of a, you always say you think out of the box. Actually, we think contrarian. That is, we disagree with some things, right? We produce 2 lakh engineers and we don't have the technologies. Most of the critical technology in this room, you take the projector, you take these cameras, you take everything, you take this mic, was imported technology. Pretty much any critical technology you take, your first assumption should be that it's important. If it is not important, you'll have to prove it to you, actually. Okay, that's our state of our thing today. And so why, the important question to ask is why do we produce 2 lakh students per year? Colleges in every nook and cranny. You talked about Kumbakonam. There is probably 5 engineering colleges around Kumbakonam now. Arasu Engineering College is like there 5-6 kilometers. I spoke there 2 months ago, just about a month and a half. Arasu is only about 6 kilometers from where I was born. And when I was born, there was no college anywhere in the entire region. Now there is maybe 10 colleges, engineering colleges alone in the nearby vicinity. But there's zero industry, zero. The college will be sitting in the middle of the rice paddies, and either the students get their jobs here, Chennai or Bangalore or Dubai or wherever, or they go jobless often. And so that's still the state, right? You go there, what is the most important thing? Well, nobody has jobs. So we have to migrate away. And that's where we talked about the transportation system, because today already Chennai has about 1.1 crore people, approximately, give or take. Bangalore has overtaken us, 1.2. Bombay is 2 crore. And the largest cities in the world don't cross 3 crores, but we are already approaching those limits in some of our cities. Nobody has ever built a city larger than 3 crores. And the reason why nobody is this, the complications of the city multiply like at the square of the population, as they say. In other words, in population double, the problems don't double, they become 4 times. There's a mathematical reason for it, but I'll not go into it. So that's why you don't want to ever multiply a city's population, because your complexity of everything, management, everything goes much larger and larger and larger. And yet we don't have a strategy today. We don't have an idea how we are going to, when we already have, see, the problem is this, we already produce all these students. We already have all these engineering colleges. We have not developed industry. Then doubling the number of engineering colleges all over India, doubling the number of students enrolled, is not going to, because we are trying like Albert Einstein said, we are repeating the same thing and hoping for different results. So we have to, as Steve Jobs said, think different. What is different? In fact, in 1990, you will not believe, when this Tenet group was started, in 1990s, Huawei, the Chinese company, did not yet exist. India was ahead of China in hardware, well ahead of China in hardware in 1991. We produced PCs. I mean, all of you too young to know that there was HCL computer, there's Wipro computer, all those were PCs in India. And we produced network equipment. We started producing things like modems. And then today, there's not any company that can challenge a Huawei, which is now a $100 billion company. There's not a single Indian company that will even approach 1 billion. We don't even have a company that's 100th China's networking majors. They have two such companies. One is Huawei and the other is ZTE. So they are global networking companies, major, massive companies now. And of course, all our cell phones in our pockets are all either Chinese or Korean or Apple, right? One of the three, typically, or all of them. That's only the all three. There's no other brand in our pocket. You can say it's either Apple or Korean or Samsung or Chinese brand. We have 0 brands in India, right? So it's useful to investigate why. This question has to be deeply investigated. This is not we cannot just repeat the same thing and solve the problem. And this is what I told in Shastra. The thing that we needed in all these districts and all these places is we must start industry first. Education should be an adjunct to it, not the other way. To me, the industry is the university. The industry is the college. Then you start training programs, apprenticeship, and that grows. You want some more, you want a little more skill here, you want the talent there, then you develop. That's actually how we do it in Zoho. In fact, that's what we call Zoho Schools of Learning. And we have now 250 students this year. So next year maybe we'll have 300, 400 students. So again, we take only 16, 17-year-olds. In fact, the latest entrant from my own village where I am, this young girl of 16, we selected her. She hasn't finished, she only finished 10th standard. We found her to be so good, we said, you come and join already, why waste time? Why waste time? That's what I asked her. And her mother needs the income because her mother is earning 300 rupees a day. So obviously the daughter wants to help her mother too, right? I said, at 16 we'll train you, at 17 you'll be an engineer, at 18 you can earn very good money. I told her. So, and for somebody trapped in poverty, this is a brilliant idea. You realize? Why waste time? So, and this actually, I'm sort of, repaying my own wasting time in my youth by helping a lot of youth not waste time, I say. So, serious. And, you said, Kandan said any degree is okay, right? Actually, any degree is okay is the wrong way to say it. No degree is actually necessary. So why are we still behind in all these? It's not because we don't have talent. In fact, all of these technologies will have Indian brains involved in it, in somewhere or the other. Clearly. All the technologies we import today, increasing component of the work was done by Indian brains, which is the sadder part. Because we pay, sort of, as they say, they buy our brain for $1 and they reap $100 from us. That's the trade balance for us. The Indian brain is used, but we pay 100 times for that brain rather than using it ourselves. So that is one of the reasons why we need those technologies created here. But now I'm going to tell you that the problem is at multiple levels. Switzerland is one country that I've studied really a lot. Switzerland is only about 6 or 7 million people. Switzerland, the entire country, has fewer people than Chennai. About 60, 70 lakhs maybe, somewhere in that. 60 lakhs might be an upper bound. I can look it up. Somebody look it up right now, tell me. I think it's maybe 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs. So this is a country, okay? And they have excellent technology in so many areas. The World Wide Web was invented there. And I'm going to ask you to study this company called FeinTool, F-E-I-N-T-O-O-L. Because you need examples. You don't want theories. You want practice. I only do practice in Zoho. Very rarely any theory. The theory has to come from practice. That again, I will adopt it as a cornerstone of our engineering education. Theory must come from practice. You don't go teach in the classroom some equations. You first build this and then go learn the equation. It must be reversed. So this FeinTool, this company, every motorcycle, every car you buy, about 50% of all the cars produced in the world uses their machine to make the parts. This one company in Switzerland. In other words, you buy a car, there is at least some 100 parts in that car made by the machine produced by this company, FeinTool, F-E-I-N-T-O-O-L. They produce a machine that does something called fine blanking. And what is it? They stamp, they cut out the part from metal, basically. But high precision cutting they do. That means that when they cut the part dimensions are very, very precise. You cannot make a mistake because it's going into very good. So study this company. And this company, you find out where it is in Switzerland. Then go study the town. It's in a town called Lyss, L-Y-S-S. And this town has population 16,000. And you talked about Kumbakonam is unknown. Kumbakonam has population 3 lakhs, 2.5 lakhs. Swamimalai has population 16,000. He mentioned the word Swamimalai. I know I was born near Swamimalai. Swamimalai has 16,000 people. Where I come from, Tenkasi, Kadayam, the town of Kadayam, you would not have heard of it. Subramanya Bharadiyar spent about 2-3 years of his life there because it's his wife's town. There's a school there called Chatram Bharati Higher Secondary School in Kadayam. Bharadiyar spent time there. He sang a lot of his songs there. And that town has 20,000 people. That is bigger than this Lyss, Switzerland. And why don't we have the FeinTool? Why don't we produce FeinTool? Why does the Swiss town produce FeinTool? Why did I pick this example? You realize why I picked this example? Nobody can claim this came from Bangalore, this came from Tokyo, this came from New York or something. This came from Lyss, Switzerland. 16,000 people. How did Swiss develop all this capability? You go look at the company history. Go look at the history. It's worth studying one company first. You see the first factory. Yeah, that's the first factory. 1959. Does it look like a factory? Every car made actually has a part made by that machine from that company now. Okay, they do sales of about $500 million US dollars, which is about 4,000 crores. No, so 4,000 crores. That's their business right now. This is the original factory. Could we do this in Swamimalai, this factory? Could we do this in Kadayam? Absolutely we can, right? Absolutely we can. So that's the first company I want you to study. You want to understand, there's another company in Japan. Go to Japan, search for Union Tools. Union Tools, Japan. I'll tell you why that company is important. This company makes what do they call PCB drills. The drill bits for PCB, printed circuit boards. So your cell phone, the PCB was drilled by this company's drill. And they are only one of 2 companies in the entire world. FeinTool also, there's only 2 companies in the entire world that can make product as good as FeinTool. Only 2 in the world. And similarly, this company, Union Tools, produces the drill bits. That is, the drill bits are what drill the holes in your printed circuit boards. So in your phone, why the drill bits have to be so fine because the metal flows through it and you cannot take up too much space, and the drill bits are finer than human hair. I actually didn't know that how mechanically you can cut through PCB with something that you cannot even see because it's finer than human hair. It's that fine, okay? And that company, maybe go to the Japanese site. Probably the site is down here. But this company also does about $400-500 million business. It's somewhere tucked in a smaller town in Japan. Then the leading industrial robot in the world, Fanuc, F-A-N-U-K. Go look at this company.
Yeah, F-A-N-U-C.
F-A-N-U-C, yeah, F-A-N-U-C, sorry. And this company is based in rural Japan. They talk about robots in factories, right? 40-50% of all the global robots in factories are these guys. Fanuc, yeah. This one company in Japan owns the entire market nearly for robots. You see all those videos where the robots paint the car, robots do all this. Where do you think the robots came from? It came from this company. And this is in rural Japan. Why I am saying all this is, these are countries we must learn from. This is what I'll tell Shastra. Why don't we have a Fanuc here? Why don't we have a fine tool here? Why don't we have a union tools here? There is 10,000 such companies. Okay. And those technologies are what is in this, all of that. The lens grinding. There is an entire article on how Nikon grinds its lenses. So there is a journalist from the US visited the Nikon's factory in Japan, where they grind. Just Google this article and find this, okay? You should read this. Because if you want to be a real engineer, you should be reading all this. But most of the textbook education is all useless. You should be studying these first. Because you have to have motivation, why I want to study this, why I have to learn how to grind lenses, right? Simply sitting and, some context-free, a professor throwing an equation on the blackboard is not going to teach you. It has never taught anybody. The proof we have, 40 years of history. No? And so that's why we have to think different. This is what I will first point to. Go study why this company exists. Why are they making money? Why are we dependent on their products? They don't depend on our products. We depend on their products. Remember, because the PCB drill they have to produce, or for us to have the PCB which goes into our phones, which goes into our computer, all of it. The same thing. If you used even a motorcycle, any of that, the really fine parts there come from that fine tool. And those companies have actually often wait list for getting their product. In other words, you have to order the product, you have to wait 2-3 months, 6 months sometimes. They'll allocate to you. So much demand for them. So that's the specialized expertise, that's what gets you. So I want you to study all of these examples first and where they come from. That's why I say Switzerland, because that's one country that's 87 lakhs, you said. And 87 lakhs is actually half the size of Tanjavur district, half of Tenkasi district. Tanjavur district and Tenkasi district both have more than twice that population of Switzerland. So what I say there is, actually that means in principle we could produce every company in Switzerland and still have half the population left over to do something else. Do you realize? That's how we should think. That's how I think. That's how I think. Unless we won't admit the Swiss are smart, we are dumb. Right? So the only two choices, either we produce those companies or we forever admit we are dumb. Right? So that's why I challenge ourselves. I say, why can't we do this in Tenkasi? Why can't we do this in Tanjavur? You don't tell me the starting point, this and that, that's all excuses. So we should stop making excuses to ourselves. So we should build these companies. Then I'll tell you how do you build it. So innovation, again, the word innovation is often thrown around. I first want to make a screwdriver, a nail cutter, all that well. You go buy a nail cutter, you'll see that made in China or made in South Korea. Try buying a nail cutter that says made in India. I have not found one. If you find one, please gift it to me, because I'm going to showcase it. Go try to find a nail cutter that says made in India, anywhere. Why can't we make a nail cutter? It's not actually a commodity, stupid product. I tell you why. The cutting edge, that steel that holds it, is not trivial. In fact, I got very interested in this one nail cutter question about 2.5 years ago. I decided I get obsessed about these kinds of things, right? So I go and ask somebody. Luckily now I have some influence, so I asked somebody, then they put me in touch with the head of research or the retired head of research in one of the big steel companies in India. So I asked him, so why don't we produce nail cutter? He said, you see, we don't produce specialty steel. We only produce commodity steel. In other words, we produce steel for all these buildings, right? These buildings have steel bars, we produce those. But we don't produce the specialty steel. I asked, why don't we do it? Oh, we don't do R&D. I said, you are head of R&D. He said, well, I asked for 100 crore R&D budget to do metallurgy. They didn't allocate to me. So that's it. That was the end of it. So we don't produce that steel. Therefore, we don't produce the nail cutter. And it's not just nail cutter. You go to a dentist, they have all those shiny metal stuff, right? We don't produce that steel. And you know the margins on those? When you import them, they probably make 80% profit margin on that. It might cost them 1,000 rupees, they'll sell it to us for 10,000 rupees. So we pay. When you go to a dentist, you pay. When you go to the doctor, you pay for all this. The fact that we don't do metallurgy R&D, we are paying. And how many decades that IIT Madras has had a metallurgy department? It's useful to ask that. 50, 60 years, right? But we actually don't produce a nail cutter. That's a fact, absolute fact, because go try to buy a made in India nail cutter. So this is pervasive. This is not just in this industry. I gave you a nail cutter example because you can start anywhere, arrive at the same exact conclusion. You go buy vitamin C in the store, pill, then trace it down. They will buy what they call API, active pharmacological ingredient, API. API is not what is in software. API has a different meaning in this thing, medicine. And the APIs, where do they come? China. So something like we run a huge deficit on APIs with China. You buy ibuprofen, most of that is imported, the API. So what do our companies do? They take that powder, make it into the pill and package it nicely and market it to you. And distribution. They run marketing, distribution, logistics. That's what we do. That's what we do well, actually, to our country. So a lot of smart brains will go into how to optimize the logistics or how to get clever financing for it. So instead we want real tech and we want to figure out these machines. And this does not involve exams. This does not involve grades at all because you go build stuff. The stuff working is your exam, you know. Either it works or it doesn't work. That's simple. Make it work. And it may be 3 times it fails. 4th time it works. Maybe 7 times it fails. 8th time it works. That has to be our approach to this industry. So we must put industry first. We must put the particularly private industry first because none of these companies, there's no government in any of these. It's not like the Swiss government or the Japanese government are involved in any of this. So it's really group of people assembling and getting this done. And where do they get the capital? You saw the Swiss companies thing. It doesn't require much capital, no? It's in somebody's garage, basically. Even in villages, you can find that kind of garage, like one building somewhere. Land is cheap. So in fact, that's what I'm creating right now. I'm creating a lot of these garages where I'm buying up some tools. I'm getting our 16-year-old, 17-year-old in our school to go on. I'm targeting already 15, 16-year-olds because I don't want them to waste time. I want them to learn how to hack these things at a very, very young age, 13, 14, 15. I want to get that engineering mindset because the way Swiss developed all this industry, I tell you, Switzerland is famous. You might have heard of the Swiss watches. High precision mechanical devices. But it's not, the Swiss watch is a luxury good. It's not something most of us will ever buy. But that industry has a meaning for them. It allows them to produce very high precision mechanical components. Like gears that operate, tiny gears that barely you can see. But it's still a gear that's running, right? From that they developed all the way to more and more sophisticated machines at larger and larger scales. So that ability to do this very fine precision mechanical parts, Switzerland is a world leader in that area. They're one of the richest countries in the world, starting from that industry. Starting from that one industry, one precision mechanical engineering. So every district can focus on one such thing, precision mechanical here. power electronics there, and sensors, excellent sensors. I saw one sensor company here, right? We import all our sensors today. We import everything, so it's not like only sensors, right? So if you go to hospital, I went to hospital this morning, 80-90% of the equipment is imported. We make the wheel beds now, so we can actually weld the steel and make the beds. But you look at the welding machine, that would have come from Germany. We make the beds, but the welding machine would have come from Germany. So you have to understand, go deeper and deeper and deeper. And with our 1.4 billion people, with something like 22-23 million, 2.2 crore kids born every year, 2.2 crore kids born every year in our country, we have to think different. And we cannot think in only these major cities. One reason I went and sat there is, one of the things about me is, if I strongly believe in something, I have to do it. Otherwise, I don't believe it, right? You cannot say, I believe and not do. So if I strongly believe in something, I have to do it. So I went and sat there. No, I am creating all this, trying to create these examples. What can I do now in this? What can we do in that? So we have a very good compiler team in a remote village now. A world-class compiler team, average age is 19, 20 in one village there. So if you can build, Switzerland can build these, we can build compilers, we can build databases. So like that, that's what we are doing now, slowly. It takes, like Professor Junjunwala said, it doesn't take very long. It's maybe within 2-3 months people get oriented. And then 6 months you start seeing some interesting things coming out. Like 1-2 years you see a magical evolution. And if we repeat this all over India, in 5 to 10 years, you would see a revolution, a transformation, complete. But we have to show it in a few places. So we have to put industry first. We have to ignore degrees, which is why in Zoho, increasingly we ignore degrees. Even this girl I said, right, after 10th standard, we said, if you want to come join, we'll admit you in Zoho schools. We don't care for your 12th standard. So you take it privately. So she will do an NIOS on private if she wants. And similarly, we take after plus 2, we actually don't care whether they pass plus 2. We had already admitted them, we take them. And then we go through our own program where there is no exams, there are no grades given in our school. People are building all the time, you are building projects. So where is the question of exam? Why do we need exam? There might be a classroom where they may say, well, let's look at a binary tree now because you are using it. Let's look at some theory. And you better understand it because you are going to do it. I don't have to test you whether you understood it because you are going to do it. And you are going to do it, therefore you have to learn it. And you would have learned it if you have to do it. So that's it, right? Simple. Why do we have to test you? Why do we have to go and copy an exam? So you are doing or you are not doing. And if you are not interested in it at all, you are not going to be in the program because it's not going to give you a degree anyway. If in the end you conclude, hey, binary tree is not my thing, I want to go and maybe create plays or something, you will not be in a compiler team, right? Very simple. So that's how I look at education. I look at education exactly that way. That you have to do. And the learning happens as part of the doing. And the teaching itself is a process of learning because teachers are constantly have to be learning. Communicating, how you convey this message, how you talk about the subject better. So that's how we should do it. So teaching and learning and doing are all mixed up together. That's how I see it. And so we have to reinvent our entire system around this. And German industry is world class because they have an excellent, they call it the apprenticeship program. This is how they learn. The Germans are not, actually Germany has a relatively low gross enrollment ratio. Go actually do this search for gross enrollment ratio. The GER, gross enrollment ratio, is the ratio of students of 18 or whatever in college as opposed to in the workforce. So countries track the GER. GER is a parameter like infant mortality, all those. GER is supposed to be a good number. That means a bigger percentage of your students are going to college. GER in Germany is actually not high. It's actually lower than many other countries. So and then they vary it by gender, all of that. What percentage of boys are in college, what percentage of girls are in college, all of it. So, and I'm saying that Germany is one of the countries where they have decidedly not taken a college everybody college approach, but they've taken a different. So this is the number I see. We are tracking, our country is tracking GER. We are at 26%, we want to raise it to 50%. And we will achieve 50%, we will have no industry still. Because we had no industry when we were at 2%. We have no industry when we are at 26%. Why should we have industry when we cross 50%? Or when we achieve 100% also, why would we have industry? Right? That's where it's going to go. They may count as, I don't know, tertiary education may include apprenticeship in their case. So I don't know what their count. If you are an apprentice in Zoho Corp, they'll count it as tertiary education. So it's again, different countries count things differently. Here you go to some college, we will count it like that, right? But I don't think Zoho schools is counted today in our country. So we are part of in other words, our students will be officially considered as dropouts. And we have 2,000 of them in our company. Officially, they're all dropouts. And we are proud of them, right? Part of it is to challenge accepted wisdom. That we think all of this is good. I'm challenging you, I'm telling you, why is there Sastra University sitting in Tanjavur has not produced a single industry there in the entire region? IIT Madras is a world-class institution. Why don't we have major tech companies here? Like you mentioned, we export services, but we have not produced tech. These are questions that have to be asked. 60 years after that, 3 generations of students have passed, we have to ask that. This is not like 5 years after that we are asking. 60 years after that we have to ask these questions. Then we have to rethink. So I hope all of these examples, the Fine tool and Union tools and Fanuc and all of these give you an idea. And I also want you to, in fact, I'm going to now give you totally different topic, business advice. All of you are building excellent prototypes here. But to make it a money-making product and make money is actually it's a different set of skills. And first you have to have a degree of what does the market want. Okay, you have to have that. Just because you build it, they won't come, right? Just because we have built a product doesn't mean there's a market for it. What if nobody needs it? And similarly, things like branding, all that, go study something. How does, for example, how does Ramraj Veshti become a Veshti brand, right? Understand that. Veshtis were never a brand. How did they make it a brand? That's marketing for you. Right there, right in front of us, you have marketing examples all around us. So as an engineer, you just study it a little bit, understand it. So you have to understand the sales, marketing, product management. They call it product management. What is product management? Like you take the wheelchair. I'll give you one example. You have an excellent technology, right? I would think broader because actually I think I can use your product. Not as a wheelchair, but as a local transport. It's like a very cheap form of local campus transport, right? Correct? It's like we have in our campus bicycles. This is like a little added bicycle, no? So that suddenly your market would be 100 times bigger. How many units are you selling per month now? You should be able to spend like 25,000 a month. That's the kind of volume we are talking about. Zoho alone can give you order for 500 units. Right? If you do this. Because we need it in our campus, right? To go around. But you have to obviously rethink the product a little bit. But I don't think it's fundamentally very difficult. That is product management, by the way. Product management is go sit with some Zoho people, understand, hey, how do I redo this product so that it will fit your need? Go talk to couple of customers, and what price will be willing to pay, which is a dark art. You have to find out. That's like a sales art. Some people can teach you how to do selling well and how to market it, and suddenly you can sell 25,000 a month. 25,000 is better than 250, right? Yeah. So that's how you think in product. So every product like that, see, don't think of it as only in your niche. What is adjacency? How do you create this? Similarly, the other product I saw, the one that looked like a sleek, I immediately thought of it not Again, I don't know why you think only disabled people. That's a market, first market. But there is a vaster market where that product is useful to me, anybody, actually. I think of it as like a tiny auto-like thing. I mean, I'm a very big fan of autos, electric autos. They are very practical things in villages. Because you don't have space, you have like this tiny sandu pandu, they call it, and you can go through it. It's like a better bicycle, but a little more comfortable, right? And if you go to a shop, you can put that in your thing there, and you can take one other person, right? So there's a lot of practical benefits to this. So, and last time I said it, it's like think of it like a family scooter, maybe. No, don't use the word family scooter. That may be a bad brand. You have to create a catchy brand. What is this category? See, often when you invent a category, you own the market. So, in other words, don't call it a car or something. Those will be too high categories. Invent a category. Like the scooty was a category they invented. They call it scooty. Remember? That's branding. So, and that's how you should think about this. So that's marketing, branding, all that. Then you have to, sell. So every engineer should also think of themselves first also as a salesperson. Can you go make a sales pitch? That's again only training, right? What you do is, every day you practice 3 minutes of pitching. That call it the elevator pitch. That means I'll give you only 3 minutes. Convince me why I should buy your product. First time you will miserably fail. The second time you will miserably fail. Maybe the 10th time you will actually get something. So learn this, right? If you are very shy, go do in front of the bathroom mirror. That's free, right? Do this every day. Do this every day because you need this. If you want to be in business, you need all these skills. Like how to assess the product, how to do the part. All of these are not, we don't want to overthink. You don't need an MBA to learn all this. So that's why I think you have to ask all these types of questions. Sometimes ask yourself, it's useful to have it in the mind at least. The question is not going to punish you, no? Like we ask, is this whole thing useless? Are we doing something useful here? We have to keep asking those. And then suddenly sometime you will get some wisdom out of it. All of the questioning, all of this. So that's all that I have to say today. Now rest you have to ask me questions, okay? Ask me some good questions, challenging questions, tough ones. So thank you very much.